So apparently we're live right now, but we're gonna test this. If anybody watches this, usually it takes a minute or two for some people to come on, but it will be recorded. It will live here,
Into perpetuity.
yeah, in perpetuity. But we're here right now with none other than Jimbo Slice, Jim Z, Zaremski, and we're Jim had a great idea the other day. He's like, "Hey man, I love that hot seat thing you did. Like maybe we should bring that back." I'm like, "Man, that's a great idea." You are the first guest.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
He's like, "Hey man, I love that." We're on. I'm gonna make sure that I'll make sure your audio is working. You are the first guest.
Yeah, I wasn't
All right, good.
expecting
We are live. What's up, everyone? We got a couple people watching already. I thought I saw Joe Lay there. Joe Lay, you there, buddy?
that. Joe Lee's everywhere.
He really is, man. Congratulations again, brother. By the way, he another child, right? Okay, so here we go. We're gonna dive right into it. So real quick, just give us a background on you and your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lower Bucks County in Levittown on the other side of the river.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Not too
yeah.
far from here. Not too far from here. And
Not too far.
and where did you? If you went to school, where did you go to college?
I went to a small liberal arts college up in the Lehigh Valley called Moravian College. Its claim to fame is it sits in the shadow of Lehigh. So very, very small school.
Corinne says hello, by the way.
Oh, hello, Corinne.
Uh, what did you major in?
I was actually a journalism major.
Oh, that's right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And after graduation, did you get into journalism initially, or no?
A little bit, yeah. I covered local school board meetings for a small local Bucks County paper. Um, I did they used to call them the stringers. I would, do some stringer work here and there, and eventually I realized it wasn't going to be a lucrative type of thing. Not that I was necessarily looking for that, but it was to break into the newspaper business, which nobody reads newspapers anymore, ironically. But so maybe it was a good thing. But I decided that it might be better for me to go to law school.
Nice.
So
So take us through that. So you decided to go to law school. Um, got out of law school, and what did you do?
I hated it. So I practiced law. So I went to school for 3 years. I took about a year to study and pass the bar, and I practiced for maybe a month. I very quickly realized I absolutely hated it. So yeah, it left me a little bit of a pickle there. So I'll never forget. I was there working one Sunday during football season, and I just came to the realization that I didn't want to be working Sundays for the rest of my life. So I literally just packed up and left. I left the partners a note, which probably in retrospect wasn't very professional, but um, yeah. And I was in Michigan at the time, and I
Oh wow!
literally rented a U-Haul and packed everything up and came back home.
I hope you watched the end of the Eagles game, though.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Um, After that, I went through a tough time, to be honest. And this is kind of what brought me to jiu-jitsu ultimately. I did a lot of, had a lot of, I didn't know what I wanted to do. That was part of the problem. And I had all of this debt, so I had to do something. So I had a series of odd jobs. I did some contract delivery work for FedEx. I delivered spring water. What else? I did art shows. I was an art show exhibitor. All kinds of weird odd jobs. Um, I wasn't very happy, and all of my friends had moved on. They kind of had left me behind. They had gotten married and started families, and I was just kind of this oddball trying to figure out what he wanted to do with the rest of his life.
So you mentioned jujitsu. Let's roll right into that. And what actually brought you to your first trial class in jujitsu?
Yeah, right. So the quick answer is health, I would say, but it's a little bit more complex than that. As I previously explained, I had a hard time after law school trying to find my way, and that kind of manifested itself in quite a few bad habits. I probably drank a little too much. I didn't have the best diet. Um, any kind of seedy, sordid place you could imagine, I was there by myself. I just wasn't living a healthy lifestyle. I wasn't being the best version of me. And in my family, on both sides, I have a history of heart failure. So my mother, I think, sensing this, was nagging me to get to the doctor. And I had resisted for years. Finally, I relented just because I was tired of hearing her nag me about it. And I went to the doctor, and he basically confirmed, it wasn't like a dramatic, like, you're going to die tomorrow. It was like, yeah, you're on this path, this kind of genetic path, and you're not helping yourself. And at that time, he wanted to put me on a series of medications on which I'd be for the rest of my life, essentially. Blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, things like that. And Mike, I don't know what came over me, but I literally just said no. I'm a Catholic schoolboy, so I grew up very deferential to authority figures, but in that particular moment, something possessed me to say no. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on medications for the rest of my life. I just felt I was too young for that at the time. And this guy was kind of an old school Italian guy, doctor. I don't even remember his name. He just looked at me with a raised eyebrow, and he said, "Okay, tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You come back to me in 2 months, and we'll see, where you are. But you have to do something within that period to help yourself." And I said, "Okay." And I had no idea what I was going to do. But I'd always been athletic and competitive and a fan of combat sports. But karate or any of those striking martial arts didn't appeal to me because I had done some research, and nothing. I'm not disparaging any of those martial arts, but there are a lot of like forms and katas, and it wasn't as physical as something that I was looking for, something more physical.
Yeah.
And with jiu-jitsu, you can spar 100% at 100%. That's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu. Whereas with some other contact martial arts, you really can't do that. So there was a jiu-jitsu school around the corner. I walked in, and that was it. I was hooked.
Yeah. So do you remember that first trial class at all? Is there anything that stuck out about you? Is there anything that you remember that really kind of was like, oh man, I like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I distinctly recall every aspect of it, to be honest. The person who gave me my intro, I'm still very good friends with. He's a black belt now. He was a blue belt at the time, and I just remember he was really cool. So that always helps, right?
Yeah.
If you like the person, or you somehow connect with the person providing you with the intro class. So that helped. And what got me hooked was he taught me a bump sweep, standard bump sweep. And I was like, wow, this is magic, and I thought it was magic. And I was like, how did he go from that position to this position? And that's kind of what hooked me.
Nice.
Was a bump sweep hooked me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, who would you say, I know you've had quite a journey in jiu-jitsu. How long actually have you been training for? How long ago was that?
That was September of 2009, I believe. So, yeah, I guess this coming September it'll be, around 11 years.
Yeah. And is there someone or multiple people who's been like your biggest influence throughout that journey on the mats?
God, there's so many.
You can name a couple if you want, whatever it's.
People who were generous with me early on and continue to be generous with me. A guy named Tim Carpenter is a guy, he has his own school in Bucks County, and he was one of my first teachers, and continues to be very generous with me. He had a couple Bellator fights. The guy's legitimate. He's a black belt.
Big dude, like bald, kind of.
Yeah, very terrifying looking.
Yeah, I saw him. I actually saw him at one of those most recent tournaments in PA. Man, he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's at the Good Fight often. He's at the Good Fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy. I don't want to ruin his reputation, but he's a teddy bear. But he was an influence. The guy who administered my intro, a guy named by the name of Chris Hughes, was a huge influence. I mean, he's a black belt. Both these guys are black belts, very high level. In terms of guys I watch, a guy named Barrett Yoshida was always very influential to me, just because I tend to gravitate toward the smaller guys. And Barrett, for people who maybe are not familiar with Barrett Yoshida, very legitimate, smaller guy, about 5'5", 140 pounds, but just he's as nasty as he is elegant. I mean, he's just so smooth, but man, when he latches on, he's known for his crucifix position. I mean, look him up. He's just phenomenal. So that's a guy that it's maybe a YouTube influence.
Yeah, yeah. What so obviously hearing about what got you into it health wise and stuff, like 11 years later almost now, what are some things that have changed about you, whether it's physically or emotionally? What have you experienced that is changed from that original trial class?
Yeah, so I'm always not skeptical, but I'm kind of reticent to get into the jujitsu as the panacea type thing. It's the cure all. It's all everything, and but I will say that it's definitely focused me in a more positive way. It's oriented me in a more positive direction. I was on not a healthy path. I'll put it that way. I wasn't a bad guy. I wasn't hurting anyone. I just wasn't being the best version of myself that I could be, and ultimately just hurting myself. So that all changed, and jiu-jitsu gave me a focus, and it provided me with direction. And in addition to the health benefits, I mean, I haven't been back to, I haven't had any testing that I've had, any panels that I've had from 11 years ago with that doctor have all been phenomenal. So there's definitely a very tangible health benefit, but physically speaking, but of course, psychologically and emotionally, the community is something. I was never someone who had a huge circle of friends for a variety of reasons. But now I do, and that's very important to me. So it's just, since I went from one path to another, and in those 11 years, I got married and had a child and another one on the way. And, is it, I'd argue that it's more than correlation. I'd argue that it's causative, definitely. So, but jiu-jitsu is, again, it's not a panacea. So it's funny because in 11 years, I've encountered people whose sole focus is jiu-jitsu. And I think that also in a way is unhealthy. Jiu-jitsu is something that should enhance your life. It shouldn't be your life. I know people who have gotten divorced because of jiu-jitsu. That's not a healthy thing, So there's a fine line there, but if you're using it correctly, jiu-jitsu can really enhance your life.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Is there any kind of general advice you'd like to give to either a white belt, a one stripe, two stripe, somebody that's kind of just getting their feet wet, and you've already just basically have given some of that, but is there anything else you can think of that you would say to a new student?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of become a kind of a cliche thing, but kind of embrace the grind, I guess. If you can come to an understanding or realization early on that you're not going to be, Gordon Ryan from jump,
right?
Then you'll be okay. But I think people come into jiu-jitsu sometimes with unreasonable expectations, and there's a lot of ego too. If you're able to shed your ego, and that is, in my experience, is a gradual process. I still have moments where I need to shed ego. It's like molting, kind of. It happens in stages, and it's kind of a continuous process. But if you're able to shed your ego incrementally and come to the realization that you have to be in this for other reasons than to kick people's asses or to become the next Mikey Musumeci, or if you're in it for health or for community or I tell people, be in it for the people, not the promotions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just be in the moment. If you're in the moment, then before you know it, those moments will add up to 11 years. I mean,
Yeah.
so just be in the moment and enjoy it. Enjoy the process.
Awesome advice. And I, again, agree 1,000%. We say embrace the suck sometimes. Just know
Right.
you're going to suck at this. And so I didn't come up with that. I think Dave Haugen or somebody said something once in one of the classes, like, just embrace the fact that you suck at this, and you're going to, and that's okay. And that's part of that, ego and shedding the ego over time and gradually, which it's true. Like there's moments where, your ego is really humbled, and it's how you handle it and deal with it and move forward is the most important.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're like halfway through, and we're gonna go a little bit faster, I promise. So you've been awesome so far. What's one thing that you like to do off the mats?
I like to write a little bit, but these days I really enjoy spending time with my daughter. As boring as that sounds.
Not boring at all. That's amazing.
Yeah, I get the most fun with her.
Nice. Another question is there a time that you can recall where you've felt pretty challenged, whether it's on the mats or off the mats?
Yeah, most definitely. As it relates to challenges on the mats, I found that it's been more challenging for me as I've progressed. Some people may be under the impression that jiu-jitsu is harder earlier. I think it's harder as you progress because, again, this goes back to ego and rank a little bit and expectations. And, my expectations of myself as a brown belt are different from the expectations I had of myself as a white belt. So, I feel like as a brown belt, I've experienced more challenges than at any time in my jiu-jitsu career.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're gonna feel more as a black belt too, because people, it's a big mark on your back. People, you got blue belts and purple belts and white belt. Anyone that wants to, they want to step up. They want to, they want to slay the dragon.
Yeah, and you and I have discussed this previously. There's no question. That's just the reality of it, and it in a way it makes you better. One of the things I hear from people who are recently promoted is, "Oh, I don't deserve this," or you do grow into your belts.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not, that's just the process. If you stick with it, you're going to grow into your belt. But it is a target, particularly for myself personally. I've had to adjust my expectations of myself. I'm an older guy. I'm not old, but I'm an older guy. I'm a lighter guy, so me, dominating a 200-pound athletic ex-wrestler who's a blue belt, that's just not going to happen for me. So I have to adjust my expectations of myself. Did this guy smash me? No, that's a win for me. Did I sweep him? That's a win for me, that kind of thing.
I remember, not to cut you off, but I remember reading something about Helio Gracie. I think it was Helio. That when he was getting really towards the end of his time to be able on the mats, he would just consider not getting choked when somebody was on, mounting him. Just not getting choked was like a huge victory for him. You know what I mean? And like it was just, understanding what his expectations were at that point in time in his life and his ability levels and everything else like that. So, and I love that mindset for sure, because I agree. At some point we're all going to start going through this. If we get to be able to train into our later years in our lives, then these are expectations that we're gonna have to deal with. So, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more, I promise. What would be this is an open-ended question, so bear with me. What would be like a perfect day for you? Like, give me an idea of like what, like, man, like whatever would make you the happiest.
Okay, that is a very open-ended question. That's a good approach, though. What makes me the happiest? So jiu-jitsu makes me happy. My daughter makes me happy. Food makes me happy. So I guess training in the morning, hanging out with my daughter during the day, cooking at night, and just sitting on the couch watching UFC at the very end of the day, I guess. I don't know. It's not very exciting, but
No, it's perfect. Perfect.
yeah.
What's one of your most favorite memories ever in life?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another open-ended one.
Yeah, it is. It could just be one thing. It's okay.
Yeah, again, it's not very exciting, and it probably sounds cliche, but it's probably the birth of my daughter because, for those who know us a little bit, we had trouble conceiving, and we weren't sure she was ever going to come to us, and we were older when when we had Charlotte, and it was just, that is a profound occurrence for anyone, I guess, but for me, for us, we didn't think we'd ever get to that point, and it was by far the happiest day of my life so far.
Super happy for you guys too. All right, so a couple more. We're almost done. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I've always wanted to go to New Zealand.
And why is that?
It just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's where Lord of the Rings was shot too. So.
Yeah, and some Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So, what's one thing that people don't know about you?
That they don't know about me.
They don't know about you.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. I think that I covered. I was actually a newspaper guy for a while, so I covered school board meetings, and that's it, I guess. I don't know.
Man, I would say one other thing that I think of that I don't think many people know about you, that you wrote a book.
Yeah. Well, they do now.
That they do now, which is a pretty amazing accomplishment, quite frankly. So,
Yes.
all right. So, what book actually has impacted you the most in your life?
Oh man, so many. God, again, looking at my bookshelf over here. It's this one is just recency bias, but I recently read Children of Men by P.D. James. There was a movie, actually, Children of Men. That one, it just really impacted me in a couple of different ways. But yeah, that one is, again, that's just recency bias. That's the one that comes to mind off the top.
Fiction or nonfiction or?
Fiction, yeah. It was actually a pretty good movie.
Nice. I promise we got like 4 left. I didn't say this would be easy, by the way. I didn't say that at any point. If you could only eat one thing the rest of your life, what would it be?
Okay.
Don't worry about health aside. Not we don't have to necessarily be practical. It's just one thing you could eat the rest of your life. What would it be?
Okay, and this may also fall under the category of what people may not know about me. I love cream chip beef on toast.
Wait, say that again?
Cream chip beef on toast.
Okay. Nice.
Most people find that gross, but I love it.
That's awesome. Dog or cat?
I mean, preference
Yeah.
or what I have. So we have both. So I was a cat person.
I'm going to ask you to decide one over the other.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I'd have to go with dog at this point.
Okay, nice. Top 3 most favorite musicians.
Oh man. Alexi Murdoch. Pink Floyd. There's so many. It's not even a fair question. Rage Against the Machine.
Nice. Okay, there you go. It's okay.
Pretty eclectic.
Me too, man. Trust me. And last question, I promise. And then you're off the hot seat. Top 3 favorite movies. I know. You could name 5 or 10, but let's go. This is not easy. I told you.
And I had no time to think about these.
I know.
Top 3 movies. Shawshank Redemption for
Yes,
sure.
that's one of my top 3 as well. One of the best ever. Awesome.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Um, I, I can't. Magnolia, I liked an old one with Tom Cruise.
Yep.
And I like Crash too.
Nice. Awesome.
But there's so many.
I know. Tough questions.
Yeah.
Well, Jimbo, I appreciate your time in. You are off the hot seat.
Ooh,
Thanks for hopping on tonight. Man, it's good to see you. And
you too.
Man, I'm hoping we get to see each other at some point in the near future. I don't know when that is. Nobody knows when that is, quite frankly. But be well. I hope everyone else is doing well. And talk soon, man.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.